I'm back.
From outer space.
Yes, outer space, where I live. I don't know how long you would go.
Oh, forever, Sam. Forever.
No.
Why did you think that would not be forever? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Danielle.
I'm Sam.
And this is the podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other who has no experience with it, except, as we often do, Sam does have a little bit of experience with this one.
Nah, new year, new me. This is all new to me, Danielle. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, behind the scenes, it's been a very long time since we recorded the first part of this episode, so good luck, Sam, on the recap that I'm going to require you to do.
Oh, boy, it's only fair, I
sucks.
suppose. You want me to do that now?
Yeah, I want you to do that
no
now.
Preamble?
We're doing the second part of the Thai drama La Pluie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go out there and tell us what it's about, Sam.
Well, okay. I actually remember what this is about quite well because it's bonkers, but I remember literally no one's name. So
that's totally fine. Do you remember the actual plot up towards the
absolutely.
end?
Well, we'll see. I don't know the actual end, but I remember the general premise.
Well, the premise is easy to remember. I'm curious if you remember the plot.
So the premise is, let's start at the beginning. There's a guy, he's named something.
Ty. His name is Ty, Sam.
I should have guessed that. It's a Thai drama. His name is Ty. That's on me.
Yeah, that's a choice that the TV show made.
I didn't want to be
spelled differently,
offensive.
at least in the English version of it.
Sure. All right. So there is this condition, disease, unclear, that
Magic
affects
thing.
a segment of the population where when it rains, they can hear a voice of another person, they hear another person in their head. Like, not just, sharing thoughts, but actually, when the other person talks, they hear it as if the person is talking to them.
Yes. Do you remember the other caveat to that?
You know what happens when you rain and they're supposed to be your soulmate? Is that the part?
That too. And they lose their hearing.
Oh, they can't hear anything else but the other person when it rains.
Correct.
Right, okay, yes.
All important.
Okay, great. So, Ty is one of these special boys. Mm-hmm. His parents were also one of these special couples, but they're getting divorced, which throws him...
gotten divorced.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, the point is they get divorced, and it throws him into a tailspin about, the whole soulmate thing. He doesn't want to know his soulmate. You start hearing their voice, and you're the age at which you...
Maybe?
Yeah. It was unclear if it was, puberty or at an older age.
No, they tell you at some point. I feel like it was 20-ish.
20-ish, okay. So he has been purposefully ignoring his supposed soulmate, except for a few times when he's heard snippets of conversation from them, or when they're making out at one point, which is uncomfortable. Anyway, Ty, does he work at the coffee shop?
No, he's a
patron.
A writer.
A writer, yes.
For a newspaper, for a magazine.
Right. He writes a magazine. Anyway, so the point is, there's a cat involved at one point where he finds a cat and he takes it to a vet, and he sees this really cute guy there who he doesn't know, but we, the audience, know is his supposed soulmate.
Something like that. He might... No, he finds out earlier because he's in the coffee shop.
Right, the person has the name. He's he hears the person talking, and he figures out that's their name because it's raining outside, and he calls their name. Mm-hmm. He's oh, that's me.
Yes. So he does realize that it's his soulmate.
I don't remember if that happens before he takes the cat to the vet or not.
I think it happens before. To be fair, to be honest, I have just skimmed through my notes from the last one, and I did not rewatch all of the episodes when I was doing my notes for the second half.
You know what? I'll believe you. What do I know? The point is, there's also a point where the coffee shop, or the vet, the cute vet guy, that's what I call him, I don't know his name either.
His name's Pat.
Pat, sure. Mm-hmm. Pat is driving with his friends, and he sees Ty, and he comments how cute he is, and Ty hears this in his head and thinks he's talking about someone else, is all dejected because he was actually interested in him because he looks so cute. So he's it's one of those classic sort of misunderstandings where Ty thinks Pat is not interested in him as dating someone else, but now is interested in him after telling Ty he wasn't interested in meeting his soulmate before. So it's oh no. That's the whole dramatic tension of the plot.
Right. And that he doesn't believe in soulmates because of his parents.
Right. And there's a whole question we have to get into here about, like, does that even make sense? Does soulmates make sense? I have a lot of questions about how these powers work. Like, does it work when you're underground?
Good luck finding out answers.
Yeah. What if you're in a different country and it's raining in one place, not the other? Like, how does that work? Like, it's all kinds of questions.
I think the show says it specifically has to be raining in both places.
Okay.
Which would suck if your soulmate was in a place that never got rain.
Like the desert of some kind, yeah.
Yeah, good luck out there.
So, that's sort of that one. There's another story going on with his brother, and his brother, like, left a book on a counter in a bookstore, and someone else came and picked up and bought it, and he's like, how dare you take that book I set down here, had no intention of, like, no clear idea that I was going to buy it in a bookstore or something like that. But eventually
that's
they,
a weirdly
like,
specific memory. Good job, Sam.
Yeah. But they, like, meet up again, like, they're in the same school, I think, and they're working on a project together, or, like, in a dorm or something.
They're both in film studies together, and that is Thian is his brother's Ty's brother.
Yep.
And Lomfon is the other guy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so they eventually sort of, like, start to actually be friends, and I don't know if it becomes like a love triangle and something with, like, the other guy and Ty.
Lomfon has met Ty. They become friends, and maybe there's a love interest there. It's you know. It seems like Lomfon's maybe interested in him, and Ty is maybe interested in Lomfon, but now he's met Phat, so that's an issue, perhaps.
Well, I'm just trying to get all the, like, romantic entanglements understood, which I think are going to be important probably for the remainder of this plot.
In the latter half, yeah.
Yeah, so.
In a way you're not going to expect, though.
Oh, well, that's good.
I have some issues for the second half.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think I covered most of the important beats there. I mean, yes, he has dinner with his parents, and he has dinner with his mom. It's awkward. This holiday dinner stuff. It's all that kind of, anyway.
Yes, so. I'm going to touch on a few points. I do think it's important to note that, as you mentioned, Ty has some issues with his parents separating, considering they're supposed to be soulmates, so he doesn't understand how they would not be together. And his parents seem to have never had a conversation with him
about
or suggested therapy or talking to someone or talking to him or, like, anything regarding that. So he just has this very, like,
Danielle,
heavy weight on his shoulders about it.
That's a given. Yes. None of our characters ever do therapy except for the one time they did in that one book we did or movie.
Yeah.
But no, they never such therapy. They never have a simple like all movie plots. People just talking to each other like human beings would probably solve all the issues in this movie.
Absolutely.
And conveniently, Ty has a very easy way to talk to Phat and could just explain to him that, hey, I'm sorry I was a jerk earlier. I actually think you're pretty cool. I'd like to get to know you better.
Right. So we're to the point. I don't know if you remember the latter half of the first episode was that Phat decides that he's going to do his big donation thing for the year. And he decides he's going to set up like a vet camp in this very small town. Ringing any bells?
No, I don't remember. He did a big donation thing?
Where the whole staff goes to this tiny small town and decides that they're going to, like, help out all the residents there that don't usually have vet care. And they all go.
Oh, gosh, right. Is it like, don't they, like, have a jacket or something that plays into it somehow?
Jacket?
Like someone, like, lend someone a jacket or something? I remember that.
No. So they all go to the camp.
Okay, I don't know what
I'm talking about. This is important because
this
is where we left off. I'm pretty sure, and now I'm worried that maybe we didn't leave off.
You're definitely, you're almost certainly right.
So they all go to this camp. Basically, Phat puts together this camp with because he owns a vet, like a practice with a bunch of other people, and every year they do like a community project essentially.
Why do they call it a practice? Okay.
And they decide to go to this tiny, like, village area that doesn't have a lot of vet care. They're going to help out the people there with vet care. They're there for a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he gets Ty to come on board.
Right. I remember Ty was part of this trip.
Right. And so he, like, invites him to come along. And then Thian and Lomfon also decide to come because they need to film their video for their film class.
So they're doing a video on the vet care clinic.
Yes, they're like following along and doing all the filming there. That's what their project's going to be on. So all of our main characters are in this conveniently spaced camping situation.
Got it. So basically this whole thing was a premise just to get them all in the same sort of small isolated area so that you can have, whatever character fireworks you want.
Yes, and there was a recent addition right at the tail end of that of Nara, the ex-girlfriend of Phat.
Oh,
Do you remember her?
I do. Now you mentioned her. I remember she existed, and I got nothing else.
Okay, she randomly shows up at the camp, decides that she's going to cook some food for Phat and take it to him. And then the end of our first episode, I'm pretty sure. I'm really sorry if I didn't talk about all this.
No, I think you did. I think you did. No, look, this is on me, Danielle, if we're not remembering. I'll take full responsibility. Ty ends up he's going to take a breakfast, lunch, whatever, brunch over to Phat. So he has a little lunch tin in his hand. He's walking over there and he comes around the corner and he sees Phat and Nara making out. Oh no!
Well, kissing. Let's say kissing.
Oh, let me guess. It's a misunderstanding and then he doesn't stick around long to find out what it is.
Maybe. We'll find out in this week's episode of Book Retorts La Pluie Part 2. Part 2.
Part 2. Wow, I didn't do very well on that one.
Just the tail end. You got the overarching plot points, but none of the specifics.
The part I'm really focused on is the magic rain powers and how angry they make me.
Well, yeah. Well, buckle in.
Oh, no.
There's some wild stuff that happens in the second half. I actually thought that it was getting kind of slow in the middle there, but it picks back up.
Oh, good. I cannot wait.
All right. So as we explained in the first episode, this is actually a series of I think 12 episodes. So we did half of the episodes in the first one and the back half in this episode.
Just like golf.
So, yeah, some of the cuts are very episodic. That's why I'm saying that. So we literally leave off to the next episode starts up with the whole situation of Nara cooking and deciding to go drop this off to Phat. So we cut back to Nara showing up where Phat is finishing up on some vet cases, telling him that it's his friends mentioned he'd be there. So reminder, they're in the middle of nowhere camping. And she just is like, you know what? I'm going to go stalk my ex-boyfriend.
Red flag.
So weird.
That's not just a red flag. It's an entire red tent of,
I'm
cloth.
gonna show up at their work event and I'm gonna hang out.
They didn't tell me I was here. They didn't invite me along. To show up to this rural place, isolated. Maybe I'll stab them. Who knows?
So weird. And so she makes breakfast, as you clearly don't remember,
nope.
But she makes breakfast with Ty. Ty doesn't realize that this is his ex-girlfriend at the time, and they're actually getting along quite well. And then she runs off. She's like, I'm making breakfast for my ex-boyfriend. I'm trying to win him back. And he's like, oh, that's cute.
No, it's not.
Cute.
No,
it's not cute. Ty's not cute.
This is why Ty is single, because he doesn't understand the difference between cute and creepy.
So she shows up. Phat asks her if she wants something because, why are you here is a great question to your ex-girlfriend at your work event in the middle of nowhere.
I would be more like, police? Police.
I think it's deeply important for this latter half of this episode to understand that the way that the actor has decided to play Phat, or the director has asked the actor to play Phat, I have not seen him in other things, I don't think. I don't know if he's always like this. His face is very, neutral a lot of the time. There's not a lot of big expressions going on in his face. And you only see him be very animated in certain scenarios. And I think that's an interesting choice given what happens in the latter half of this episode.
Yeah.
And so he's very quiet and not very expressive, which is interesting when stuff like this is going on. So he's just kind of very neutral affect as he's talking to this woman.
So it's very hard to get a read on him.
Yes. Which a lot of people are like that in real life, but it's a weird choice for acting.
Yeah, especially a drama, like a melodrama.
Yeah. So she says that she's there because she wants another chance, and I guess she thought the work trip was the place to ask this.
It's not.
Back
it's
in the
city.
Not. He apologizes, and you probably don't remember this, but in the first episode, he had the opportunity to be like, no, this is over. I don't want to be with you anymore. And he just didn't say anything because that's his MO.
Yeah, he's avoidant.
Yeah, he's a little avoidant. And so this time he apologizes and says that he should have said something sooner, but they're not going to get back together. And she starts to cry, obviously, and then asks him why, if he didn't want to get back together, why he kissed her 2 months ago and got her hopes up. And as you mentioned, you may remember that scene where he was making out with somebody. Well, it turns out it was her.
Oh.
Awkward.
Yup.
Yeah. So he doesn't seem to have an answer for this immediately, and Nara rushes forward and kisses him. I don't know why. Just for funsies, I guess.
Well, to create the moment when Ty can see them and have the misunderstanding that, creates drama.
Yes, and not that she knew that Ty was coming, but
no,
absolutely.
but the writer did.
Yes. And I can't tell in this scene if time slows down, so it just seems like an absurdly long kiss, or if they just kiss for a really long time. And he's not into it, like, clearly, but he also does not pull away with any amount of, like, it's well over 5 to 10 seconds. Like, it is a long kiss.
Wild.
And Ty, of course, comes around the corner. As we know, he oversees them and has a flashback to hearing Phat make out with someone and realizes it's her. So he drops the breakfast pail thing and he had in his hands and he runs off.
Aww.
I know. So sad.
I mean, kinda.
Poor Ty.
Yeah.
Pat still doesn't say anything, but I guess his lack of kissing convinces Nara that he's serious about not wanting to get back together, because she's like, wow, you're really not into this, are you? And he explains that he was very drunk the night they kissed and basically shouldn't have done it.
Well, if you'd said that earlier, you could have avoided. Never mind.
Yeah, he should have said that, like, immediately. So Nara asks if he'd met someone else, and he admits that he's met his soulmate. And in the previous one, that was the reason one of the reasons they had broken up, is she felt she could never compete with
I was going to say, like, if you were dating somebody with this condition and they're like, yeah, you're not the one for me, like, would you continue dating them?
Yeah, it's weird that she decides that she's, like, all in later, because she's originally like, I can't compete with this mysterious soulmate person that may or may not, usurp me at some point, even though Pat was like, no, I'm into you. I don't want to be with my soulmate.
That's
He's
insane.
not even interested.
I don't know if I would even be, like, considering dating somebody with this condition, like, because that's a lot of, I don't know, unknowns. Like, I still have a question about how the soulmate thing works in general. So maybe there's, like, people don't go with their soulmates all the time, but it doesn't seem like that.
But assuming you bought into this, and culturally it sounds like this is a thing, like societally, like it's well established that if you have a soulmate, you're with them. I also would be struggling with somebody who had a soulmate they hadn't met yet.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, thank you. This is not going to work long term. Yeah.
So I don't know what changed her mind, but she's decided she's all in, and he's like, yeah, no.
You know what changed her mind, Danielle?
The plot of the story.
Yeah, they did.
The
writing.
script.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously she decides again that she can't compete with that, and she gracefully exits. And then they give her this weird crying scene in the woods. And we just met this woman like 2 seconds ago.
So she leaves to go cry in the woods, and it's like, well,
yeah, she's very like noble when she leaves, and she's like, I understand, it's fine. Like, she's being very graceful about it, all things considered. And then she leaves, and then they show her for a particularly long time, like sobbing in the woods. And I'm like, I don't care about this woman. Like,
I mean,
we met her 10 minutes ago while she cooked breakfast.
We care in the sense that she's a human being and who may be in suffering, but we don't care about her as a character in this fictional story that we've not been introduced to at all.
Exactly. And like, she does have more screen time, spoiler, coming like in a little while, but I don't care about this woman at this point. So to show her crying that long in the forest, I was like, what? Why?
How long do they show her crying?
It's a solid like 30 to 60 seconds, which is a lot of screen time for some person that you don't know.
Yeah, that's a significant investment.
Anyway, meanwhile, Ty's run off and decided, for reasons, to go hike the mountain his parents were at. You may recall that one of the plans they had, and the reason why he chose this area, Phat, was because this was the mountain that his parents, they proposed, or his dad proposed to his mom.
I knew there was something about it.
And he thought he'd get some kind of clarification, like mentally, about the soulmate thing if he hiked the same mountain. This was Ty's thought, or Pat's thought, and Ty kind of agreed. And so that was like the idea. So he's decided he's going to go hike this mountain on his own in his cardigan with no water, no food. And so that's a choice that he's making.
A bad choice.
A bad choice. And then back at the vet camp, Phat finds the breakfast pail on the ground and realizes Ty was around, I guess. I don't know why. It's not specifically Ty's breakfast pail. It could belong to anybody.
Right. I mean, easily.
But he looks around. He can't find him. He runs back to the camp and asks if anybody's seen Ty, and they realize that he's disappeared. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no.
So the whole camp breaks what they're doing and goes to search for him.
Yay.
Okay, so Phat...
Okay. Everyone's was there something I'm supposed to understand there? Was a big, like, insightful...
No.
Okay. I don't know.
Going through my notes.
Oh, okay. I was like, I feel like there's something I'm missing.
So Phat goes to check their room because it's kind of like bougie camping. It's nice camping.
Ooh, sign me up.
So they go to check his room, and he sees the note Ty left earlier about, like, oh, on our last day, when you're free, we should go hike the mountain. And he wonders if maybe that's where Ty went. He's pretty confident that may have been where he went.
Ooh.
And Ty's brother, Thian, is mad at himself for not realizing that's where he would have went when Phat comes back. And is like, I think he's hiking the mountain where your parents were. And he's taking it very personally. It's kind of overacted. I'm not sure why he's this upset about not realizing where Ty is. At this point, they don't know if Ty is having any issues. For all they know, he took a backpack and some water and he's a good hiker. Like there's no reason to think that he's only like, there's no timeline. Has he been missing all day at this point? We don't know, but Thian's really upset about it.
From his history of hiking, I know he sucks at it. So I must be very upset that he has decided to hike without telling anyone.
I just thought it was like a weird overreaction to Ty being in no potential danger as far as they know.
That is strange.
But everybody's acting like he's in some kind of mortal peril, and Lomfon runs off after Thian, who leaves the area really upset, kind of crying a little. So Lomfon runs after him to comfort him, and they hug it out or whatever. He's like, it's going to be okay.
Isn't that nice? Bros helping bros.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ty isn't doing so hot, as we might have suggested with his cardigan. And you can tell from the close-up shots, and there's sweat, and there's the weird angles they do when somebody's about to pass out.
Yeah. That's fun.
It's the little heat waves, on the screen. And then he does pass out, and he rolls down a small hill, towards a lake or a river or something, a stream, I don't know.
Oh, a body of water indeterminate size.
Yes, exactly. And you see his hand fall into it dramatically. So Phat is out looking for him, and luckily, guess what happens?
You said Pat was looking for him?
For Ty.
Does he fall onto the same lake?
No, that'd be funny. But it starts to rain, Sam. It starts to rain.
I should have guessed. I thought it was going to rain much earlier.
So it starts to rain, and Ty ends up calling out for help, and Phat can hear him. Because, he can. It's magic. Or disease or something. We're not sure.
Of course.
He's asking Ty to describe where he is, essentially, even though Ty is halfway passed out on the ground. He's like, water, the mountain. It's really vague. And Phat's like, gotcha, I'm coming. It's very funny.
That's how do you nail it, basically?
Yeah. So, but Lomfon is caught in the rain too with Thian, and suddenly Lomfon has a blazing headache and hears something before passing out on the ground.
Does he hear a mountain lion? I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out.
Okay.
So Thian calls for help. He's being very dramatic again. To be fair, his friend is just pass out in the rain. I guess they'd be a little dramatic too. And Ty, like I said, directs Phat to where he is, and Phat goes to rescue him. And luckily, he's fine, though Phat didn't bring any water either. So as far as I can tell, they're just going to die of dehydration.
All useless. I mean, people have never been hiking before. A water bottle was equipment number one.
So they hike back in as far as they can go, and then they have to wait for a pickup because the cars aren't allowed in. I don't know if it's because it's dark or because it's raining or what's happening, but they're basically stuck there overnight on the road.
Okay, sure, why not? And they have their moment alone.
Yes, where they get to chat or whatever.
Chat without
make out. We'll find out.
Well, all of the above. Chat without the rain, basically.
Even though he's probably super dehydrated because he just passed out.
Imagine if you were in marriage counseling, you and your partner were seeing therapists, and it was raining. You heard their therapy session. What a nightmare that would be.
Session. Oh, you mean if your partner was in a therapy session and you could overhear it because...
if they're having trouble with the relationship and they're okay, I need to have some type of therapist. And it started raining and they were inside, so they didn't know it was raining. And you suddenly overheard them all complaining about you and having their therapy session. This is a curse, is what I'm getting at, Danielle.
I guess you would just have to be hyper aware of windows and paying attention to the weather.
What a nightmare of a I'm sorry. I know this is completely off topic, but I was just thinking about how they can talk to each other without the rain. Oh, that's great. But then about all the times that you could still hear them when they didn't want to be here. There'd be no way you'd have no peace of mind with this condition because at any moment, all of your privacy could be evaporated.
Yeah, if you speak out loud at all.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
What a nightmare scenario. I'm sorry.
Oh, we kind of talked about that a little bit in the first episode too. It's just literally because they catch snippets of each other's conversation. So as you just said, anything you're saying out loud in the moment it starts to rain is fair game.
I know we probably cover this a lot. It's been a while. It just all hit me again how much
it's still terrible. It's still terrible.
How much this world is a living nightmare for its inhabitants.
Unless you have absolutely no issues with privacy, it's a real problem.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
And because it's not something from childhood, it's like you have privacy the first 20 years
of
your life, and then suddenly you're like, wait a minute.
It's like you grow up knowing how to guard yourself or how to live. You have to relearn all those skills.
Yeah, terrible.
Anyway, continue with this lovely story.
All right. So Ty admits that he saw them, kissing, and he's confused because they're a good match. So why are Ty and him supposed to be a better match? Which is a totally fair question, especially if you don't believe in soulmates.
And again, who is picking these soulmates? Oh, I'm angry.
Yeah. The almighty God creature.
The universe of nonsense.
Yeah. Fate.
I wish it was just
Sam.
I think I figured it out. I think it's literally just random. And people have ascribed to it the importance of soulmates. Like, oh, this random phenomenon, it must be important. If otherwise, why would these two people share thoughts?
Well, that's what Lomfon kind of says in the first one. He says he thinks it's some kind of scientific phenomenon where they're on the same frequency, essentially. Remember, he explains that poorly.
No, not at all.
Well, he thinks it's all he doesn't believe that soulmates are a real thing, and he thinks it's all some kind of science. There's a scientific explanation behind it, that it's random.
I think it's just random, and people are like, that must be important. So it is. Anyway,
I mean, we would ascribe, if we had that, we would ascribe something like soulmates to it.
Absolutely, we would. People love doing that stuff.
And it'd be interesting study-wise. I'm curious how many of those soulmates stay together versus the regular population of people for marriage or whatever.
Like I was saying, having a private life probably makes you better able to maintain a relationship, like having a private inner life. And this condition makes it harder to do that.
Absolutely. And then you would be wondering, do they stay together because they feel like they're soulmates? So maybe their marriages are longer because of that, though maybe not more successful.
Yeah, some kind of societal expectation, external factor. Yeah.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, there should be a lot of science, studies behind this, and they never talk about any of those, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, no.
I have questions.
Oh, I have so many questions.
It just gets worse. So.
Oh, good.
And so Ty thinks that, as we mentioned, that if he reached the top of the mountain, he might understand things better. He'd just have a better understanding of this whole situation. And Phat doesn't explain the kissing situation at this point, which is a crazy thing to not explain. He just says that he loves him better than he loves Nara.
That's not a great... I mean, I guess it's good that he loves him better, but that's not very specific. It's she was my second choice, and you're kind of my first choice at the moment, but maybe that'll change.
He doesn't say like that. He's just I will always love you more. That's not the soulmate thing. It's just you. I will love you more than Nara forever. Doesn't matter if they're soulmates or not.
Sure.
But also, I
you don't
feel
know him.
Yeah, and I also feel an explanation wouldn't hurt. She kissed me. And we're not together. We had a whole discussion. I officially broke up with her. This is the time to have that discussion. And instead his response is, well, I love you more. So it's okay that we kissed.
Oh boy, that's not, is this supposed to be an abusive relationship?
No.
Oh.
I just don't think he explains. I think it's the writer's fault, but I think also this character just doesn't explain things.
Clearly.
So Ty decides suddenly that he doesn't actually need to hike the mountain. He's got some clarity just from this whole experience and talking to Phat. I mean, obviously the conversation goes a little bit longer than my explanation.
Well, I'd hope.
And his parents must have, gone through some stuff he's going through stuff. And I don't know. Soulmates don't always have to be together. It's unclear where his thoughts end up. But he seems okay for the moment.
Well, that's good.
So they finally get picked up the next morning. They head back to camp. And Thian runs out to greet him, and apparently Lomfon is fine. We know he passed out in the previous scene, but he's awake now.
Is there any reason given for his passing out?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
We're gonna. This is towards the end of an episode, so we have a flashback shortly. This show really likes flashbacks.
I remember that it did do weird things with time that make it hard to follow.
Yeah. And Lomfon comes out, and like I said, he seems totally fine, but he is staring hardcore at Ty. And we get immediate flashback to Lomfon, and we hear inside of his head during the scene where he passes out in the rain. So, like I said, he has this blinding headache, and then he passes out.
Does he have another, is Ty in both their heads? Come on.
So he, yes.
No!
But here's the weird part, and I watched the scene twice because I was confused. And I remember being confused the very first time I watched this series before I decided to use it for the podcast. But he hears Ty's voice when he's calling for help out to Phat. He's like, Phat, come find me, help, and he hears that. But he seems to hear Phat as well. Like, so he hears the conversation between the two of them.
They're all connected together?
Maybe. We'll get into this.
This is, as we like to call, the three-body problem.
So, which means, if you just take this at face value, this scene, he's a soulmate of one or both of them, because I swear he hears Pat's voice as well, because he hears the conversation between the two of them.
So we're talking like a throuple situation? What's going on?
Which would be great, and how this should end up, but I highly doubt that's how it's going to end.
What do you mean you highly doubt? You know how it ends.
Yeah, but it should end as a throuple, because that would make way more sense.
I was going to say, why not?
Do they have polyamorous soulmates? Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't know anything about this society.
Well, this is my thing. Assuming you buy into the soulmate conjecture, et cetera, there are people out there whose soulmate is, in fact, soulmates, plural. So,
I think so.
Yeah. So how would that apply to them? There are problems here.
Yeah. That's how I want this to end. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So we get a flashback to Lomfon's thoughts on the whole fate thing, which, like I said, is that scientific phenomenon. And then he wakes up in a bed with Thian asleep at his side, clearly waiting for him to wake up. So it's, the past again.
Oh.
So Thian berates him for passing out and scaring him, and Lomfon asks if they found Tai. So apparently it's right before he's about to be brought in, because Thian says, yeah, the car is driving him back to the camp.
Convenient.
Yeah. Cut back to the scene of them meeting back up with Tai, who apologizes to the group for causing so much trouble, which you should. Bad Tai, no biscuit.
Okay.
And Lomfon is clearly freaking out inside. So obviously it gives that whole scene new meaning, because you see Lomfon staring intently at Tai, and it's because he just heard Tai's voice in his head. And he's like, well, I was kind of interested in Tai, but I'm kind of interested in his brother. And now I'm very torn because I'm hearing voices.
Yeah, that would make things complicated.
Yeah. So he kind of stares between Tai and Phat. And Pat's looking at him suspiciously, because Pat's a jealous fiend.
Why is Phat jealous? He's just kissing some other lady.
Yeah, but he's in love with Tai, and he's worried about Lomfon. Every
How
time he
have they
sees them
actually
together,
interacted?
he's all jealous.
I mean, again, I may have glossed over it in my description, but I don't remember them having, any significant amount of interaction with each other.
Lomfon and Phat?
No, Phat and Tai.
Oh, yeah, they're kind of half dating at this point.
That's my point. So, Phat, you being, intensely jealous of the boy you barely know, essentially, and you're only kind of dating, another big red flag.
They feel deeply connected to each other, Sam. I don't know.
I'm just saying, people don't make any sense.
They're loosely dating. They're beginning to date.
Okay, fine.
But he's jealous immediately of Lomfon, because it's another boy's in the picture. And Lomfon is clearly kind of interested in Tai. So Tai goes to his room to rest, and Nara comes to visit. Why is she still here?
I was going to say.
Okay, I could see her maybe helping.
I was the train doesn't leave until tonight. I guess I'm stuck here. Might as well go meddle some more.
Yeah, it'd be so easy as a writer to just be there's only one bus out of here. It's tomorrow. You got her there for the day. But otherwise, why? Yeah, it's super rural. So, my thoughts, you just said, I was thinking, well, maybe she can't leave, but they never say that. So she's just hanging out, which is a weird thing to do when you just got dumped by your ex again.
Let's go hang out with his new boyfriend. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So she comes in and she apologizes for causing miscommunication, which I don't even know why she would know that's why he left. Was Phat just sharing it with everybody?
Right. Oh, yeah, Tai left because he saw me kiss my ex. I'm such a rapscallion.
She knows for some reason. And how her and Phat are done. And she wouldn't have interfered had she known they were soulmates. I don't know why she feels the need to tell him, but she does.
Didn't she know that he was interested in his soulmate? She knew the soulmate thing was a thing, right?
She didn't know it was him, though.
Oh, I mean...
So it was probably pretty awkward that they had
a
whole
breakfast together. She didn't know it was anyone
together.
when she went to, it doesn't matter. Go on.
She didn't even know that Phat had met him yet.
I know! So, why does it make a difference?
Well, now she feels bad because she had, a little conversation with him in that morning, and they'd gotten along well,
okay.
Tai and her.
Sure. Fine. Whatever.
I don't think she should be talking to him, but she does. She's still there. I don't know why.
All right, fine. That's what I'm getting at.
That night, they have a bonfire party at the camp. And they play a rousing game of truth or dare.
No. They're adults, right? Not like 12-year-olds?
Yeah, they're in their 20s.
Okay, sure.
I've played Truth or Dare in my 20s.
Yeah, I
and
bet.
Possibly 30s. Like, I don't. It's a game that doesn't go away.
It should.
Where Lomfon, it actually is very kind of cool. Very kind of cool. We don't do it as much. Yeah, we don't do it as much here in the States, but it is a little bit more common in other places where they like spin the bottle and whoever it lands on is the Truth or the Dare person.
Oh.
Like we don't play it that way here. Spin the bottle is a whole other thing.
Which is also a terrible game.
But in other places, it's much more common because I've seen it in a lot of TV shows and I've played it in other countries that way. But it does the camera like on the bottle and you can like, it spins with the bottle, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this show actually does some pretty good filming stuff. It's very pretty.
Aw.
Especially when it gets to some of the like smaller towns and stuff where it's showing the streets. It does some really interesting filming that I like.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're playing Truth or Dare. Lomfon admits that he has a crush on someone, but won't say who because that's 2 questions. Good call, Lomfon.
Rules lawyer in a children's game. Great.
And then when Pat's bottle lands on Nara, everybody gets super quiet. Again, why is she still here? Why is she playing Truth or Dare, not just hanging out in her room
and their
with
new
her ex?
Squeeze?
And why does everybody in the entire group know what's going on between the two of them? And again, why can't she just play Truth or Dare? Why does it have to be awkward? He could just be like, Truth or Dare, pick a thing, like move on, pretend like nothing's wrong. But no, they all just sit there awkwardly and stare at each other.
Because they're children playing a children's game, Danielle, clearly.
It makes me mad. When TV shows or movies decide to like play things really awkwardly where people have no acting ability and they can't just pretend like something doesn't bother them, it really bothers me because I would never do that in real life.
Yeah. Like,
most people are decent at like pretending like things aren't bothering them.
Yeah, it's called getting along in society.
Yeah, so we like function day to day. So when people can't do it in movies, it makes me really angry.
That's fair.
Anyway, so Ty suggests it would be a good time to talk to her.
What?
Why? They've talked. They've broken up. It's official. They don't need to talk again. Why is Ty getting involved?
Agreed.
And so when she picks Dare, Phat, dares her to go talk to him. Which, again, very awkward way to interrupt your Truth or Dare game at a bonfire.
I'm going to dare you to go have a, soul-exposing conversation with this person. Good game, everybody. What a good game.
And why do they need to have a soul-exposing conversation? They just broke up earlier in the day and had that same conversation.
This is why you bring something like Uno, because at least it's a game people will mostly enjoy. Oh,
my gosh. So they step off, he apologizes again for hurting her, and she accepts it again. And why is this conversation happening? I was like, it felt like a filler.
I was about to say, did they have to reach a certain time or what?
I didn't feel like this conversation needed to happen again. I felt like they got closure earlier. It's fine if you want to keep her in your friend group or whatever. They dated for a while. That's fine. But why are they having the whole conversation again? And why is Ty involved in it?
Yeah.
And then Ty watches them like a creeper from behind a tree and smiles like, oh, they're getting along. That's nice. They hug it out, sweet. And you're like, why?
Why is he involved in this at all? I
don't know.
He's not part of the relationship. Stat it.
Yeah. Next up. They're back on campus, and everyone is meeting up for some reason. I think supposedly to drop off some equipment for the film stuff. So Ty goes off to help Thian get some stuff from the car, and Lomfon asks to speak to Phat. But we don't get to see that conversation yet because, as I said, the show really likes their flashbacks. So the group reunites, they come back with the stuff, and there are a lot of meaningful looks between Phat and Lomfon as everyone talks and jokes around.
Just, show us the conversation. You don't need to, this is such a cheap way to build suspense of we're going to build suspense by just not telling you, by hiding information from you. That's like with mystery novels to oh, there's a certain clue at the end of the book that makes it well, yeah, but if you didn't give us the clue, how am I supposed to know that?
Well, it'll give us the clue eventually.
Boo.
And then Phat and Ty leave to go meet Ty's brother to pick up Ty's cat. And the brother seems to live in their family home. because Pat looks next door and has a flashback to being maybe in college or his first job. He's like younger. He's got glasses on now and he's hugging his grandma out on the patio. And I need to tell you, as I said earlier, he has a very like expressionless face for a lot of this.
That's not helpful.
And when he's in the this set of scenes from the past, he's like very vibrant. And I think he's trying to act like younger, but he's acting like he's very like has a lot of expression, and he's like up and down, and he's like very exuberant. And you're like, who is this character? What happened to you, Pat?
Yeah. Do you think like he was told, stop making so much noise, like as a kid over and over, and so it caused him to be like shut down or whatever?
I don't know, because this is when he's like probably 20 or so. I mean, he hasn't supposedly started.
Not that much younger.
No, he's supposedly starting his vet. At one point, he said something about starting his practice. So I'm assuming this is several years ago when he like began
Maybe being
his
a
first
vet is so soul crushing that it like crushed all the joy out of him or something.
It's a whole different dude, and I was like, what is going on?
That's insane.
It's a choice. It is a choice the actors and directors are making. And so I wish I could show you like two separate scenes to show you normal Pat and like past Pat.
Not normal Pat.
And he stares, so he goes up to his bedroom. It's unclear if he's living there or just visiting his grandma. It feels like at first that he's visiting his grandma, but he seems to have a whole bedroom there, and he has a fish in his bedroom, so I'm hoping he's living there, because otherwise who's taking care of the fish?
Fish takes care of itself, Danielle. Very smart fish.
And he seems like he's there a lot, so maybe he at least spends most of his time there. Anyway, so right now he's in front of Ty's old house and where his brother lives, and he's like kind of looking at his old bedroom window and, remembering. And as they're leaving, he asks Ty if he used to live there as well. And Ty's like, yeah, I did. And I left, after my parents split up. And Pat admits his grandma used to live next door. And this is apparently set right after the time. So the flashbacks that he's having in this scene are set right after the first time he hears his soulmate. So whatever this 20-ish, we have to assume.
Okay.
And he ends up staying over, and out of his bedroom window, like across the way, kind of kitty corner, he sees a boy crying in his bedroom, which we are assuming at this point is Ty, correct?
Sure. Why not? I have no idea when or where we are. I am befuddled.
We're several years ago in the past. We're having a flashback. Pat is having a flashback to living with his grandma several years ago. And
seeing Ty cry across the street from him through his window.
Right, but he didn't realize it was Ty until this very moment.
Okay, cool, sure.
So because he just sees kind of like the back of this kid's head, and he's crying in his bedroom, and his grandma comes in with a blanket for, to spend the night. So she tells Pat that she feels bad for the boy because his parents just split up the day before. So word on the street is.
So they split up when they were young.
Well, he was, he's
20?
about the same age. So ish.
Wait.
18, 19. I think he's probably a few years younger than Pat.
And he's bawling in his room because his parents are getting split up?
But it's late teens. You don't think that would be upsetting?
I don't know. I thought he said they were in their 20s still when they first started hearing each other.
I think Pat is probably about 20-ish because he just heard his... they're around the same age because he just heard his soulmate for the first time. So they're both about 20-ish.
Okay, sure, fine.
Or he might be a little bit older and maybe Ty
how does that work?
Come up to 20. I don't know. I assume you can't hear them until they reach 20.
But they can hear you? What a horror.
Well, I don't think you can hear I bet you can't hear each other until you're both 20.
But you said he just heard it.
Yeah, but they're probably both, they're both the same age.
Okay.
That's my guess. Okay, I'm sure. I don't know if the TV show ever tells you how old they are, but I'm assuming they're around the same age. If he just heard his soulmate for the first time. So his soulmate, at least Ty just turned 20. Pat might be a little bit older. Who knows how that works?
Got it. All right, sure. Fine. Go on.
Anyway, but he doesn't know that it's his soulmate or whatever at this point.
I got that.
Anyway, so he's upset because his parents just split up. I don't think there's an age limit to crying that your parents split up.
I'm not saying there's an age limit to crying. I'm just saying I was imagining this whole, for whatever reason, I thought they were 12 in this whole scene. And he was having some
older.
Distant flashback.
I just told you
grandma.
That Pat had just started
Danielle,
his
but
vet
it didn't
clinic.
make sense to me. I was like, this doesn't sound like something that a 20-year-old would be doing.
Yeah, he acts very young in this scene, but he's probably 20-ish.
That's what I'm getting. I couldn't quite reconcile their behavior of all these people with the age they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they're 20-ish.
Okay.
The next morning, he asks his grandma to deliver some desserts to the boy next door since he cried all night, and he writes him a supportive little post-it note, you can do it.
That's nice.
hang in there. And he goes to work or school or
I
whatever
spy
he's
you
doing.
through your window all night. Here's some treats.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not sure I would appreciate that, I'll be honest.
And why he never noticed there was a boy about his age that lived next door prior to this, I don't know. But
you would
maybe
notice that.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't live with his grandma most of the time. Maybe he's just visiting. I don't know.
Also, why doesn't Ty have curtains?
They do, but they're like open. And I don't know why you'd be sobbing in your room with your curtains open.
Yeah,
but maybe he didn't realize the neighbor boy was there.
Sobbing in your bedroom is private time.
So Grandma goes out, gives the treats to surprise. It's Ty.
Obviously. Yeah, no duh. I got it.
Well, the scene is like shot from the back of his head, so it could be a mystery person. It is
no,
not.
It's definitely not a mystery. Danielle, I've seen a movie before. I know how this works.
So sometime later that day, the next day, years later, who knows, he asks the grandma to give a note back to the grandson, which thanks him for the original note and promises he'll try his best to recover. And now they're pen pals with the grandma as the go-between. They have not talked at all, but the grandma just keeps going back and forth with notes and treats.
If I was that grandma, I'd be like, just walk over across the street and give him the note yourself, dang it. I don't want it to be the one currying things like a block.
It's not a block. It's just over the fence. They're literally next door to each other.
Just do it. Just do it yourself.
So now we see a sad Ty. He's hanging out in his garden one night, and we get another flashback to Ty running after his dad and calling for him. You may remember that we've had this flashback like 15 times before.
I do not remember.
Okay, well, we've had this flashback many times, which is just Ty running down a street being like, Dad! Dad! And his dad's like pulling a suitcase or something. You think I'd remember this better considering how many times I've seen it. And he's just like running after him and his dad's not turning around. And it's clearly like post-divorce and his dad's leaving and he's always blamed his dad for the whole divorce thing. Or he's blamed his mom for the whole divorce thing. And then it thinks his dad's leaving because his mom has like forced him out.
Okay.
So he's like running after his dad. So we've seen this scene so many times. I cannot express to you how many times they
And the fact that I don't remember, it shows you how much of an impact it made on me.
Yeah. So Pat sees him hanging out in the garden from the window and he throws a note into the garden and then he like hides for some reason. He just like ducks under the window like he doesn't want him to see him. I don't know why. Maybe he's embarrassed.
Yeah, I guess so.
The note tells him to cheer up and Ty smiles a little bit.
Well, cheer up. That does it. Just send me a note when I was feeling sad. It just said, cheer up. I'd be like, well, that's all my depression.
Just say that, but that's the summary of the 2 sentences on the note.
Okay.
It's a post-it note.
Sure.
So one day, Ty comes home and the house next door is being cleared out. Oh no, the grandma's passed away.
Well, they do that.
They do. Way to be non-empathetic towards this situation, Sam.
I'm sorry. This TV show has sapped all my empathy because none of the characters seem human.
You watch it, they're more human, I suppose.
That probably helps, yeah.
So Ty is pretty upset by this, and he ends up tossing a note somehow through the open bedroom window, which is like 2 stories up. So he tosses a Post-it note like 2 stories in the air through an open window.
Like a Post-it pad.
Just a note.
Does he fold it into like a paper airplane? Like
no, he like crumples it in a ball and tosses it.
That's wildly impressive.
And it lands just where Pat is like sitting underneath the window crying. So sure. And it basically says like he just heard and he's so sorry and I'm here for you if you need anything kind of dealio.
So they have this whole interaction, like a whole relationship before.
Yeah.
But they didn't know each other at all when they see each other again.
Yeah, and it's mentioned in one car scene. I think I mentioned it because I knew this was coming up in the previous episode, is there's like one car scene where they're like talking about, I had this friend from the past that was really important to me, essentially, and this is the friend from the past. Oh, it turns out it was each other.
How do they not recognize each other?
Why would they? They have never seen each other, and they've never seen each other like face on.
Why? They live next door. Why? I'm so
Sam,
angry.
I don't know. They've never left at the same time. They've got like I don't even know if he just moved to the area. Maybe he's just visiting his grandma. If he was able to throw a note into the guy's window while he's up there, you think he would stick his head out and go, "Hey, I can see you." Yeah, but no. Maybe they just like the mystery of it. I don't know. I don't know, Sam. I don't know.
This is why they're not human to me, Danielle, because they don't behave like human beings. Human beings would be like, I like the mystery of this neighbor who's a close friend of mine who I'll never see, and I'll take active steps to avoid seeing them in person.
Yes. I think they've actively avoided each other at this point.
Insane. Absolutely bonkers. This has made me more upset than anything else so far in this show.
Yeah, and it would have made maybe more sense when they were like children because they maybe look different when they're adults or something.
That's what I'm getting at.
They look exactly the same. They're still, it's like 5 years ago or whatever.
Right, and they're behaving like, this is why I thought they were like 12 years old the whole time, even though you told me they weren't, because like, throwing notes into the person's window next door, like talking to walkie-talkies, like, or like the tin can on a string or whatever. That's like a child thing. I thought they were children. Adults would just be like, oh, hey, let's get a drink. Let's go talk. I appreciate your support. Let me, they have agency as adults. They can make their own decisions. They can, like when you're a child, like maybe their parents, they keep them so busy in school activities, never had a chance to hang out. Fine. But like,
nope, post-it note, Sam. Just accept it and move on.
I think they're 12-year-olds in 20-year-old bodies. That's my summation. They had like
it's a real possibility.
Yeah, this is like a weird Freaky Friday situation where one of them, like, they've aged up somehow. I don't know. Or
it would explain a lot.
Or something, yeah.
All right, cut back to now. Ty realizes that Phat is his pen pal. Oh, they're destined to be together, probably. I mean, who knows? Fate. We still have Lomfon. It's a mystery.
To be together that you couldn't bother to introduce yourself to this person you live next door to for months, years.
And he's got a whole other person that can hear him in his head, so that really throws a wrench in the whole soulmate situation.
Look, I've been talking about the whole soulmate. I'm past that. At this point, I'm angry just on the human level interaction.
Yeah. Well, as they're driving home, they're talking about how cool it is that it's like the important relationship they had as young adults is the same like people. You want to say now.
Kids, right? Because it seems like a childhood relationship.
And then in the car, Ty asks, this is very not kid-like, asks if he can stay over at Pat's tonight, which causes Phat to slam on his brakes because he's really into that idea, and it's actually kind of a funny scene.
Why slam on his brakes? He should be kicking the gas like, yes, let's get there right now.
He slams on his brakes because he's so surprised and then he goes like 90 miles an hour. But they show this funny scene of like the cars behind him, and you can see the cars behind them are trying to pass him, so he's obviously not going 90 miles an hour. But it's like they're pretending like he is, and I think it's funny.
Yeah, excellent.
So they have some sexy times at the apartment, and I guess it's good that it's not raining because that would have been real awkward for Lomfon.
I was gonna say, like, oh,
that would suck.
What again? It's a curse. This is a nightmare world designed to punish and torture human beings.
Yeah, but they do take a shower after they have their sexy times, and we did not clarify in the previous episode if that also causes a hearing issue because rain, shower,
I was going to say. Actually, Danielle, for once, I think your constant assertions that this is the good place, like, story, I think it applies here, where this is a good place scenario designed to torture these people.
It might be. Also, I think it's important to note that during this scene, there's this weird song overlay with lyrics saying, "There's blood on my hands," which makes no sense.
What?
I don't know. It's this very, like, kind of coffee house number, and it's very pretty, and it's like it
like
sounds
coffee
like
house metal.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it belongs to the scene, because if you weren't listening to the lyrics, it's just very like mellow and it's nice. So they're like having their little kissy scenes or whatever, and then I was like, wait a minute. Because it's in English, or if it's not, it has the subtitles, and I was like, that's not good.
I love when songs do, like, the weird and kind of dark lyrics with a very poppy, incongruous tune, like, pumped up kicks or whatever. Right. And I do as well. However, I don't think this was meant to be as intimidating as it was. There is a time and a place for that. And it made me wonder if it was a translation issue. I think the song might have been in English, and it made me wonder if they just liked the melody and maybe didn't understand. I didn't listen to the rest of the lyrics. Maybe it made sense in context, but "There's blood on my hands" seems questionable regardless of the rest of the lyrics. You should find that song and listen to it. And maybe it's like a sweet romance song that takes a weird turn. If I didn't listen far enough into the song to get that part. So this might be a murder mystery coming up. I'm not sure. I would love that. What a twist. Imagine trying to like murder your spouse and like get away with it if you have this condition. Like you heard, like they heard you like talking like that Alfred Hitchcock film where like, we're going to switch, you're going to kill my wife, I'm going to kill your wife kind of thing. Or luckily it's not like they can read your thoughts. They can just hear you if you talk out loud. But I'm saying like if you're discussing that murder plan like on the train, like in the Hitchcock film, like wouldn't that make it a much better movie? Like, my husband is talking to someone about trying to kill me. That's suspicious. It would be. That'd be a great movie. Let's do that. Great movie. Yeah, let's do that. Pluie, the murder. La Pluie meets Hitchcock.
Anyway, back at campus, Lomfon and Thian are working on their film project, and Lomfon is clearly very worn down after his big ordeal, and Thian notices he has a fever and makes him get some rest.
Oh,
I know, they're
I
clearly
swear,
having...
if the brother starts to hear the thoughts, I will be... What a nightmare. Like, if your brother was hearing all your sexy time, like, shenanigans.
Why would he have... I mean, that'd be hilarious, but why would he hear his brother?
Because here's how I'm imagining this. Like, I think of this like a disease.
Mm-hmm.
So
now it's catching. Everybody in his social circle's getting it, but we don't realize that's how it works.
So what happened is Ty and Pat are into each other so they can hear each other's thoughts. Lomfon is into Ty, so he's hearing his thoughts. And the brother is into Lomfon, so he can hear Lomfon's thoughts, but that also then taps into the same frequency. They're all like in a group chat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what a horrible scenario.
All right, well, they're clearly having some conflicting feelings towards each other because Lomfon asks him if he had to choose between the person he likes versus his soulmate, if they were different people, which he would choose. And Thian is not sure and basically is like, well, I'm not going to think about it unless it happens. Like, that's too big of a thought for me. And he really believes in soulmates. Like, he's not like his brother. He's all in on the soulmate idea. So he's struggling with the idea that he would like someone other than his soulmate.
Has he had his soulmate thing, or is that only his brother?
Only his brother. The brother is... So, Ty is the only person in the whole family out of the three brothers. I think there's three of them.
Oh, I don't remember. The other ones don't matter. We don't care about them.
Yeah, you meet them in, like, passing. There might be four of them. But he's the only one in the whole family besides his parents that has this. So another reason why his parents should have had a very large discussion with him about how the soulmate thing works. Also,
how awful for his brothers. Like, I am all in on the soulmate thing. I am so for this. Oh, my brother who doesn't even appreciate it is the one who has this ability. I don't get that. Like, what kind of resentment would that breed?
Yeah, you'd think so, but Thian and his brother Ty are pretty close, so... Though he does give him a hard time sometime, like, get on board, Betty.
I'm just saying, I feel like there would be a lot more, like, you don't even want soulmate. Why do you get the power?
Yeah, it's terrible. There's not a lot of family drama other than the parents,
Okay.
Between Ty and the parents. So what is probably the next day, but who knows because it's a TV show, Lomfon calls Ty and asks him if he recalls that he promised he'd take him out for a meal for helping out his brother that one time he was drunk, which first episode that happened.
Yeah, I remember.
And he asks if he's free Sunday and they agree to meet. So Ty looks a little concerned, clearly not. I think it's that he's not over his interest in Lomfon, but maybe he's just concerned that Lomfon has an interest in him.
Right, he's going to lead him on, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, this TV show is very unclear about who likes who, or maybe people are just having small feelings for each other. Like, you could have small feelings for somebody, but bigger feelings for someone else.
I only have big feelings, Danielle. I'm a big boy.
So later that day, Pat is dropping him off and mentions he has Sunday free and asks Ty if he wants to hang out, and Ty defers, basically being like, I've got some work I need to do. You liar, liar, pants on fire.
Why don't you tell him honestly?
You have a date with Lomfon.
Just say you're taking Lomfon as a thank you for when he helped your brother. Like, it doesn't have to be a date.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because he knows that Pat's a little thrown off by Lomfon, if he's trying to hide it because maybe Lomfon likes him, or maybe he still kind of has a little bit of interest in Lomfon. Again, this TV show's not clear with people's, emotions. Also,
lying about this sort of thing never backfires in TV shows.
Yeah, definitely won't be an issue in 2 minutes. Cut to Sunday. Lomfon and Ty seem to be having a great time on what appears to be an all-day date, because that's the thing.
I thought it was dinner.
No, it's all day. He asked if he's available all day. And he's like, sure, let's do an all-day date. Because that's a thing people do.
Yeah, apparently.
Lomfon tells him that he wants to talk to him about something, but later, not right now. He wants to prove something first. What does he want to prove? I don't know if we're going to find out.
Okay.
It's confusing to Ty. It's confusing to all of us. While they're out, Pat's coworkers see them together. And they think it's suspicious, and I don't know why they think it's suspicious.
You have friends.
You can have friends, and it's established that these two have hung out several times
before. They know each other.
They know each other.
Oh, what a scandal.
Yeah, it's super weird. So they're like, one of them snaps a picture and sends it to Pat, and is like, hey, is this appropriate? Just curious.
What an instigator. Jeez.
What a crazy thing to do. I would be so, what?
Yeah, no, absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's not like you saw them kissing or anything like that. They're literally just hanging out. They're like snapping photos. Lomfon is a photographer, obviously does film, and he's like taking pictures of them, and they're just kind of like laughing over the pictures. Like very just friend-based activity. Yeah. They're not super close to each other.
Making out.
Like,
they're not like,
it's like nothing that would suggest that they're doing anything other than hanging out as friends. And you don't know as the friend that he said he was going to be working all day. There's like no reason for you to be suspicious of this. It's so weird.
Again, do you know where this happened, Danielle?
Plot of the story.
Plot demands it.
Yeah. So Pat sees the photo and has a flashback to the university conversation with Lomfon. Hey, we get to find out what happened. Aren't you excited?
No, it's going to be some nonsense that they just talked about it with each other. It would have been fine.
Lomfon just tells him that he heard Ty when he passed out in the rain. And
talk to Ty about
apparently
this.
Ty is his soulmate, and it's a real issue. He doesn't mention that he heard Pat's voice, which I think is wild, because as I said,
that's
it
relevant
sounds like
information.
He hears both. Yeah. And I think I'm going to spoil it now, they completely ignore the fact that he seems to hear the entire conversation. Like maybe he didn't hear Pat. He suggests he only heard Ty. If that's the case, writers and editors do better on your voiceover.
Make it clear.
So confusing. Because if he heard Pat and Ty, that's a whole other ball game.
Right. That changes everything.
And they just say that he heard Ty, and I was like, I don't know, that conversation sounded like both of them. But maybe I misheard it.
No, I think you're almost certainly right that it was just sloppy, but I'd like to think that Lomfon is just like doing some machinations. Like, I like Ty more than Pat, so I'm going to tell Pat that I hear him and like leave him out of this conversation.
I'd like to think that they should be in a threesome, but apparently he's not. Like, they're not on board. I don't know.
Justice for the throuple.
That's just what I think should be happening.
Well, you would.
Pat is like, nobody has two soulmates, and I'm his boyfriend, so suck it, essentially. That is the conversation. Pat's like, no.
I mean, I understand where Pat's coming from, but also be like, that would shake my foundational thoughts about like the whole soulmate
and Pat
premise.
Is like 100% on board for soulmates. Like, he believes soulmates are a thing. Like, he's there. So to like hear, you would die. Like, that would be so alarming.
It'd be like, this changes my understanding of a fundamental aspect of my universe.
Yeah. And like, what if I'm not the person who's supposed to be with him?
What if
like,
this soulmate thing is nonsense and I'm just like buying into the propaganda?
And not once does anybody Google, does anybody have two soulmates?
Right. You'd expect there to be like a National Enquirer article about like the octomate, about the board. Like, I have 8 soulmates for them all in my head.
Or there's some kind of like board that you could go to online that's like, I also have 2 soulmates. Like, that has had to have happened at some point.
And if it's happening now, this can't be like the first instance ever.
Yeah, crazy.
There's a lot here. Also, who's commercializing the soulmate thing? Like, I would imagine there'd be an agency. It's like, if you hear your soulmate in your head, but you don't know, like, what if they're across the world or whatever,
we'll find them for you.
Exactly. They'll come use like, we will help you.
There's a whole societal thing here I really, really, really want to see that this show does not get into, and it's really unfortunate.
Right. This show is too focused on, like, the romance, which is fine, but that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is, like, how would this change society?
Yeah, I want like a whole, like not a redo, but like almost a second season where it's actually focused on like the rest of the world, and these two are like side characters, and you get to see all the like stuff that's, no, but you just get to see all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes with how the society works, and like they're just like one of like a bunch of stuff that's going on. I want to like see the behind the scenes of this story.
I can't help but think of something like Blade Runner, right? Where like the android, the replicants in society, yada, yada, yada. But like, you know, he has to hunt them down, but it's also just about like this bigger society at the same time.
Yeah. It feels like that should be happening.
Yeah.
It could be very cool.
It wasn't.
All right. So with this flashback, Pat realizes that Ty likely lied to him, you know, about going out with Lomfon.
Oh, yeah. Good job, Detective
And so he calls him. And Ty almost doesn't answer his phone, but decides to. And then lies to him again and says, yeah, I'm working. Totally working on my journalism article. That's what I'm doing. And Pat goes to Ty's apartment. Assumedly to, like, prove that he's not lying. Like, no, Ty's definitely not lying to me. He would never lie to me. I'm going to, like, go to his apartment, and he's going to be working at his apartment.
Why would he be working at his apartment? Maybe he's working at a cafe or something.
Right, but he's not. So
We don't know that.
Right. He could be working anywhere. But he goes to the apartment, and obviously he's not there. But Thian is, and he's waiting for his brother. He's like, yeah, he went out this morning, I guess, but I was just hanging out waiting for him. Everybody's just hanging out at his house.
Sure.
So Thian doesn't know where he is, but Phat tells him that he's out with Lomfon, and he lied to him earlier, and both of them seem deeply concerned by this for obvious reasons.
Aw, maybe they should hook up.
Yeah, that would solve that problem.
I mean, imagine if you were Ty and you heard your soulmate hooking up with your brother. Yeah.
So
Again, so many nightmare scenarios that this just completely aligns.
So Phat runs off and Thian follows behind him like, where are you going? Come back. So we're back with Lomfon and Tai, and they're taking a rest, and Tai asks him what he wanted to talk about. Like, remember that thing you mentioned earlier? And Lomfon again defers. He's like, I'm not sure I have an answer yet to the question, that I wanted to prove, and I'm not sure I want to talk about it yet. And Ty's like, okay, well, take your time, but it looks like it's about to rain, so I'm gonna head out, because, I go deaf.
What a nightmare. Sorry, I still can't get over that.
Well, Lomfon offers to drive him home, and again, Ty reminds him, like, oh, I have hearing loss when it rains, and I think that it's interesting because we're supposed to have seen some kind of arc, I assume, for Ty, and he still has this internalized, drama about the fact that he can't hear when it rains, and he really hates that, and, doesn't believe in soulmates.
But doesn't seem to be a problem for anybody.
But doesn't seem to be a problem for anybody he's around, but he seems to think he's a constant problem because he can't hear when it rains. And I'm like, you really need to work on this. You have a lot of inside issues. No, Lomfon doesn't seem to mind. He's been with you a few times when it rains.
Deaf people exist.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's a totally okay thing. No one can be like, oh my gosh, you can't hear. This is wildly offensive almost.
Yeah, and it's obviously his issue because anytime you see him interact, he always has Post-it notes in his pocket. He pulls them out and he writes stuff when it starts to rain and hands them to people. And everybody's like, you never see anybody being negative towards him or not accepting towards him as far as I recall. And so it's clearly him. He has this internalized hatred for himself regarding this issue. The society seems to be fine with it. And actually people comment in the thing oh, I'm so jealous. He has that the soulmate thing. I want a soulmate. They want to be him. Yeah. So it's bizarre that he has this internalized hatred of himself and clearly needs to talk to somebody about it and work through it.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
Yeah, because he's nobody seems to be put out by him. Everybody seems to be totally fine with him. They treat him the same, whether he's deaf or not. The show seems to be fine with it. It's him that has an issue with it.
Aw.
Yeah, it's a problem. So Lomfon's like, no, I don't care. Let's go to the car. And as they get up to leave, Lomfon drops his keys and Tai sees a keychain with a little blue penguin thing attached to it. And Lomfon
has a flashback.
No, well, Lomfon, the way that Tai reacts to it, Lomfon excitedly asks, oh, have you seen this before? And Tai's like, yeah, I used to have a keychain like this on my house keys, but I lost it.
Oh, no. No.
This is more fun because you don't remember the whole first half of this episode.
Why is everything so coincidental?
It's a Tai job.
Oh, I hate it.
Also, fate.
Boo. Go watch Serendipity again.
So Lomfon looks surprised and he's like, wait, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, did you save a kid from getting hit by a car? He says kid, but it's another person from getting hit by a car. And we get another flashback to Tai running after his dad. But this time we see Lomfon walking. He's got headphones on. He's reading some pages, probably a script or something, and walks into the street because apparently he's terrible at walking.
Life, yeah.
And a car seems to arguably speed up to him.
Dad's if I'm going down, I'm taking this kid with me.
Yeah, no, it's not the dad. It's just a car.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
The car seems to have no intention of stopping, and Tai sees this, runs forward, pushes him out of the way, and yells at him to be careful, and then ascertains oh, you're fine, I'm gonna go because I have to run after my dad who's leaving. You're less important than my father. And so he takes off. Crazy. And he's apparently dropped his keys and left them behind. And the rain starts back up as they're talking, and as they stare at each other, Tai pulls out his Post-it notes and writes I've gotta go, which is crazy because they were just walking to his car, so I don't know why he suddenly needs to go. But Lomfon calls after him, and Tai can hear it.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. Shocked, he turns around, and Lomfon admits that he's a soulmate too.
Can Phat hear Lomfon?
Yes, probably. We'll see.
This is why. Why? You spent all this time establishing the rules of this universe only to, like, chuck them. You're
gonna love this scene. Maybe he can hear him. It's very unclear. So Ty's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's only one soulmate. There's not. No.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on. And Lomfon admits Ty was his first crush, his first love, you know, because he'd, like, this hit-and-run guy was, like, somebody he'd kept in his heart,
met him for
I guess.
10 seconds.
Yeah, well, apparently it was just, like...
Fate.
Yeah, remember that guy that saved me that one time?
Sure.
And he leans in to kiss Ty, and Ty's, like, shocked. Like, what is going on? And Phat, for weird reasons, since it's not within his personality, suddenly runs up to them in the street and punches Lomfon in the face, telling him to stay away from his boyfriend. Mind you, no expression, Phat. Has some deep anger inside, I guess.
That would be concerning to me as Ty, that my very recent boyfriend flew into a blind rage and socked this guy.
You know what? We kind of get into that.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad the show addresses it, at least.
Sort of, yeah. Phat's, like, out of control, which is, like I said, it's so weird because he is not an out-of-control character.
The most buttoned-up guy ever,
it's so weird. And it's, like, 0 to 60. Like, he just appears and he's, like, super angry about it. I mean, he sees some kissing, which I assume would be, you know, threatening,
sure.
But he, like, goes crazy on him. And Ty's yelling at him, trying to, like, get him off, and, like, they're having absolutely no success. There's a lot of screaming. It's unclear who can hear who, but obviously multiple people can hear each other because it's raining, so at least Phat can hear what's Ty, and Ty can hear Lomfon, so it's like a whole thing.
I mean, this could be a very fun, like, farce if it's like, I can hear you, you can hear me, he can hear both of us, but we can't hear each other. Like, that'd be a fun comedic premise.
And then Thian's there and he can hear everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, what's going on?
So that's fun. And like I said, it's like completely out of control. It's chaos. There's rain everywhere. There's like everybody's punching each other. And finally, Ty like leans back and yells up at the sky, "This destiny, I don't want it." And this like ringing noise happens and gold surrounds him.
Does he reject the powers?
Yeah, there's like a popping kind of thing. And now everybody can suddenly hear each other.
Is that all it takes? You have to just yell, "I don't want this power."
Your destiny.
If that was all it took, you think, again, there'd be message boards about people.
So that worked.
How does this work?
I don't know, Sam.
Oh, I hate it so much.
The first time I watched this, I was like, no.
Yeah, that's the right response.
Mad. And then he gets up and he like walks away. He's like, no, I'm done with this. Not dealing with this anymore.
Fair.
And that seems to, like, the whole situation, everybody suddenly being able to hear, like, him screaming, all of that, it, like, breaks up the fight pretty immediately. And Phat chases after him, like, begging, demanding that he choose one of them. And
I think this is not the right frame of mind to make a choice like that.
Right. He's, like, sobbing, and he's like, it's very dramatic for Phat, for anybody, but particularly this dude who has no emotion. That's not true. He does have lots of emotion, but it's just very, like, low-key.
So wait, if you just reject the concept of a soulmate, you're free of this curse?
Apparently.
Why does everybody do that?
I mean, he had to, like, reject it really hard.
I know,
it's
but
hard
like,
to work up that much energy.
I don't know. It seems like I have to just yell at it really hard and it's fine.
I don't know the rules.
There are no rules, obviously.
So Ty insists that he does not have to choose between the two of them because Phat should already know.
Throuples.
Phat should already know how he feels about him. Like, they've had sex, they've been together, he's committed to him, like, at this point, you know, in the story, supposedly. Yeah. Like, there's no reason he doesn't have to choose. Like, Phat should just know that it's not either or at this point. He should know how he feels about Phat. Does he even trust in their relationship? Does he hear how crazy he sounds? Because he just, like, keeps repeating over and over, like, you have to choose one of us, you know, what's happening with our soulmate thing, which I guess would be very dramatic if you were Phat and believed full-heartedly in soulmates, and then another one appeared, and then
it canceled, rejected.
It broke.
Again, none of this makes me want to live in this universe.
Yeah. And Pat's like, I've always trusted in us, but why did you lie to me today? Which I think is a valid question. Again, this is all yelling, so there's a lot of yelling going on.
Yeah, I mean, this we're going to have a nice discussion about. I honestly know you had to have a screaming match in the middle of a rainstorm.
Yeah. And he basically need to choose one of us, and Ty doesn't answer, but tells him to go home because he refuses to have this conversation right now. He's not, Pat's not in a frame of mind that you can have this. Pat wouldn't even understand right now if he said that, and he's afraid that he's going to say something he'll regret. So Pat keeps yelling that it's not that hard to choose, and I don't know where this weird dependency issue comes from, because previous to that, other than full-heartedly believing in soulmates, he didn't
pretty independent and self-possessed.
Yeah, like it doesn't, like there was no history of like, you know, being left by his parents or something. I don't know, something that would explain why he feels these attachment issues to people.
Wild.
Meanwhile, Thian and Lomfon are also having it out, you know, across the square or whatever. And Tian's all confused because of what Lomfon asked him earlier, like, you know, somebody you like versus your soulmate.
And he thought it was about him.
Well, and he thought that they had something going. And so now he's confused that Lomfon apparently has a soulmate, and not only a soulmate, but it's his brother, which is, you know, concerning.
Yeah.
And now he can suddenly hear again. Like, Lomfon didn't even tell him that he had this issue to begin with, and now it's like a non-issue. So, like, what's going on?
He only had it for like a day, apparently.
Yeah. And, like, why does his brother get two soulmates? And who does he like? Does he like him, or does he like, you know, his brother? And Lomfon, too. I mean, the most confused person out of all of them really should be Lomfon.
Yeah, obviously.
And he yells and he just wants to know how he actually feels. Like, he's very torn right now. He doesn't know what's going on, and he's, like, not 100% sure how he feels or how he's supposed to feel or, like, you know, anything. And he didn't ask for soulmate, and he didn't ask for it to be his brother. And Thian seems really upset personally with him, and he's like, how does that make me a jerk that I'm going through this? How is that my fault?
Which is also fair.
Yeah. And Thian finally admits it's because he likes him and thought Lomfon maybe liked him too, but he guessed he was wrong, and he walks away. Everybody's so dramatic right now.
I mean, again, these people are all behaving like teenagers.
Young 20s. You're not that much better in your 20s.
It's true. But still, like...
These two characters, I think, are young 20s because they're in college. So they're like...
Right.
He's 20. Lomfon must be 20-ish whenever the curse arrives.
How much longer do we have to wrap all these threads up? I'm just curious.
We're pretty close-ish.
Okay, because I'm like, is this going to like tie it up in a neat little bow really quick?
I've got like a page of notes or something.
Well, let's see, because I want to see how it manages to do all that.
All right, so Ty is now sad. This is a montage of everybody being sad.
Okay,
Ty's
great.
sad in his room with his cat while it rains, and he asks his cat if it's weird that he's always wanted to, you know, be out of this hearing issue, and now that it's gone, he doesn't feel better. And the cat immediately gives up on him and leaves, which I thought was very funny.
That's very cat.
I know. It wasn't on purpose. You could tell the cat just didn't want to be held anymore, because he was like, no. He leaves.
Good on them for keeping that in.
I thought it was funny. Pat, meanwhile, has decided to give himself a drinking problem, I guess.
What?
He's like heavy drinking. Like he is.
Sure.
I don't know. He's on board the drinking train. And he ends up showing up later at Ty's house, and he starts to like bang on the apartment door, and he's very drunk. And he's like yelling that he wants to clear things up with Ty. And Ty finally opens the door and he's like, are you drunk? He's like, nope.
Yep.
And he said he's clear-headed, but he's anxious, and he wants to talk to Ty about everything. And he apologizes to him for making it sound like he didn't trust in their relationship. He's just very confused, and he doesn't understand why the hearing thing is gone, and what does that mean? Are they not soulmates anymore? Does Ty still love him? I don't know why Ty wouldn't love him anymore just because the hearing thing's gone. That's like, I think what Ty is trying to put across, but he does not understand.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if your whole idea of love is tied up in the weird hearing thing, that might make you question the relationship. Like, why'd it go away? Are we no longer loving me? Is that why it disappeared?
Yeah, I think that's probably where he's coming from, is like, are we no longer soulmates? Do you no longer love me because you can't hear me anymore?
Yeah.
Is that like the whole basis for our actual relationship?
Right, of course.
Ty's like, this is exactly why I didn't want to talk to you, because I don't think you're in a place where you can understand our differences on this situation.
Right.
And Pat's like, I just need answers. I want things explained. Living in silence, not being able to hear you, it's killing me. And Ty doesn't think he'll understand anything he says right now. Pat gets really angry and yells at him that they need to talk. And Ty, very fed up with this whole situation, which goes on for a while, finally says that they should break up. Like, they need space.
I mean, a little distance might be a good idea.
Yeah. And Pat is like, what do I have to be like to get you to love me? Do I have to be like Lomfon? And I'm so confused by Pat's personality.
He is very concerning.
He's really struggling. And he seemed totally fine an episode ago.
Yeah, everything seemed to turn very quickly whenever it was necessary.
I just wish that they had shown Phat have more emotional depth if they were going to take it this far.
Right.
And like, why is this the thing that breaks him? You know, like they don't show him as being a fragile character with this. They don't show him as having any like dependency issues. They don't like they don't do any of the writing to show that he has this personality where he'd be this dramatic if something happened.
Or like show him to be all in on the soulmate thing. Like that is his raison d'etre. And then when it falls apart, it shatters him.
Yeah. Like they should have put more into something.
Yeah.
And Ty's like, you know, we're not having this conversation. Like, we're not doing it. You need to leave. And Phat finally, you know, gives up and is like, yeah, then maybe we should break up then. And then suddenly realizes what he says and tries to take it back. He's like, no, I didn't mean that. Like, I want to stay together. And Ty, who's kind of shocked that he actually agreed. I think he probably thought that Phat would never break up with him. And Phat tries to apologize and starts to cry as Ty like pushes him out the door, telling him he was, you know, very happy in this relationship, but he can't do this anymore. And it's actually a very well acted scene, other than Phat being very dramatic. And they're like sitting on opposite sides of the door, and they're both like really upset. And, you know, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's a good scene.
Well, good.
Okay, 1 week later.
1 week later.
A message from the heart is the theme in today's film class. And they're supposed they're supposed to make a short film based on the theme. They're studying kind of like romance, the romance genre. And Lomfon clearly wants to pair up with Thian because it's a group assignment, but Thian isn't having it. He's still very upset at Lomfon for, I don't know, reasons.
Yeah,
Lomfon's control.
I mean, some of them are beyond his control, but the fact that he was macking on his brother.
Oh, sure. You could be upset about that. Absolutely. But also have a conversation about it.
Yeah, sure.
So, meanwhile, at the same very exact moment, at the bus stop, Ty is being melancholic in the rain, I guess. And his friend asks him if he's going to speak to Phat again. And Ty says the fact that he hasn't reached out the whole week says enough, and that he doesn't believe in soulmates anyway. I'm assuming Lomfon is hearing this entire conversation. Who knows?
Oh.
So, Phat drives
I thought they all couldn't hear each other anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say.
That's good. That'd be weird. Wouldn't that be weird?
I mean, freeing, probably.
Maybe. He seemed kind of upset about it earlier. Phat drives by the bus station and stares long enough that he probably would have hit something. You know how they do in TV shows where they look away from the road and you're like, ooh, that's bad. But he doesn't stop. He just stares. He looks pretty mopey at his vet job, and his friends that all work with him are talking about how he's being a chicken, not talking to Ty, and suggest that he should reach out. And Pat's like, I don't think he's going to want to talk to me. And they ask if he still loves him, and he's like, yeah, of course. But the last time didn't go well, and the time before that didn't go well. And his friend is like, well, the first time you talked to him, you were really angry, and the second time you were drunk. So maybe have like a sober, non-angry conversation.
Maybe try talking to him when you're not in a weird altered state.
This seems obvious, but Pat's, embarrassed, I guess. It's amazing how people won't have conversations that would probably remedy the thing that's making them miserable because they're like embarrassed.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's a thought. So back at Ty's house, Thian is being sad on the couch and admits to Ty that he likes Lomfon. And Ty is like, yeah, I knew that. That's no
okay,
surprise.
Great.
And Ty feels bad that he's screwing it all up for his brother. But his brother's like, yeah, I don't hold it against you, like it's out of our control, really.
Okay, really?
And Ty tells his brother that he and Phat broke up. And he's like, well, that's sad. They have a little brother bonding moment on the couch.
Aw, brother bonding.
Cut to Ty meeting up with Lomfon at the cafe, and Lomfon apologizes for messing up his relationship with Phat. And Ty's like, I'm not really mad at you. I mean, that's fair, but I also be like, but you maybe shouldn't have kissed me randomly in the street. Yeah,
like, maybe approach me and talk to me. Don't just, assume something and go in for it. Yeah, very weird. And he wants to apologize to Lomfon that he can't return his feelings. So I guess he doesn't like Lomfon as much. Maybe it's second place. I don't know. I just think it's confusing, given that a week ago he seemed kind of torn. And when Lomfon asked him out on that date, he was like, maybe I should probably go. I'm going to lie to my boyfriend about it. What are your feelings, Ty? Look, I'm not excusing what Phat did, but if you didn't lie to him about hanging out with Lomfon, it would have been a problem. Yeah. Crazy to me. Been more honest about that. Probably wouldn't have been a huge issue. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Lomfon admits that after he kissed him, he realized his feelings weren't about love, like maybe he thought they would be, but he just had like good feelings towards Tai as a person. They'd become friends. He admired him. He knew that it was the same person who had saved his life, which he had, had a kind of like a past crush on, I guess,
Sure.
this mystery person. And he liked him as a friend. And so it was just a lot of feelings mixed up that he kind of thought might be love, but kissing him made him realize that like, no, I actually like your brother.
Well, I'm glad he realized that belatedly.
He says what he actually says is his real feelings are for someone else. And I assumed Thian, but it would have been pretty funny if it was Phat.
That would have been really good. Again, I wish they had done something interesting like that.
This is probably the point where I can say that I'm like really upset that they have this interesting premise of like two people being potential soulmates to this one person, which seems to never happen in this society. And within like an episode, they broke that up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you even introduce that?
It was just like they could have had all this drama without the like soulmate thing. Like Lomfon could have gotten involved without the like let me hear your voice in your head thing.
Sure, but it's even more interesting that yes, they're supposedly both soulmates to each other, but this doesn't seem to like
want to explore that.
Yeah, this should be more. There should be a lot of it, like conversations about this and exploring this and like why is this happening and what does it mean? And no, it doesn't do any of that.
None of that.
Interesting.
I've already lamented the many things I wish the show had gone into more detail about, so.
Yeah, in some ways it like kind of gets into the concept of soulmates in a really interesting way, and then in other ways it like completely ignores important things like this.
Yeah.
So Tai goes to leave and gives Lomfon sort of like a half hug thing. He's like kind of talking into his ear for some reason, for plot. And lo and behold, Phat walks into the cafe sees them.
Yeah,
and he drops a bouquet of flowers. This is the weird part. He drops a bouquet of flowers he was holding. For some reason, I assumed that he was going to give to Tai, but how did he know Tai was at the cafe? And like, did like whoever tell him that like Tai specifically went to the cafe to meet with Lomfon, so like they were like Tai will be at the cafe, but they didn't tell him that Lomfon would be at the cafe. Like that just seems weird. Why was he there with flowers? And Phat is sad again at his vet office. He's crying by the window dramatically, and we find out that he's put he's like standing in this big window and he's just like sad. And we find out he's put in his notice and is leaving town.
That's like very dramatic.
He's like, peace out. He's going to open a vet practice somewhere else. I think in the same town that they went to earlier, which is a bigger town, but has like very rural area. But he's going to be in the like kind of main town area. And his friends are worried he's making these like very emotional decisions, like that he's not thinking things through.
Fair.
And he's like, yeah, I know I'm doing that. But if I'm not soulmates with Tai, then what's even the point of, I don't know, living the whole life he had before? He has friends, a like job with those friends. Like, I assume he has a social structure there, hobbies, like a whole other things
this is
that
one
are
of those
not
guys
Tai.
who makes a relationship the entirety of their personality.
It's so weird. I'm like, you had a whole life, but like your soulmate wasn't even interested in you till like, 2 months ago?
Bonkers. Hate it.
And he's going to give up his entire life on the off chance that he sees Tai again in this fairly large area.
Maybe don't go back to that cafe he goes to. That's like an easy solution.
Yeah. Just maybe everything reminds him of him. I don't know. But he's giving up his entire practice, which he like put together, which he owns with his friends to like leave. Cut to a wedding.
Let me guess. Okay, my ideal wedding that this would be cutting to would be between Phat and Lomfon.
Yes, that's what's going on here. Surprise! We're 5 years in the future. Everything's resolved. Tai is with his brother. No, I don't know.
No, what? No, it's not that kind of show, Danielle.
No, it's a throuple. They're all together. It's great.
Imagine if, like, The Graduate, like, they have the whole scene where Phat and Tai are getting married, and then you see Lomfon up there, like, beating on the glass, like no, and then instead of Tai running off with Lomfon, he, like, gestures, like, yeah, come on down here, and then he joins him on the altar, like, let's do this.
Yes, that's what happens in the scene.
Perfect.
No, it's Tai's mom, and she's getting remarried to her new partner, which I think I mentioned maybe in the first. If not, she's got a new partner. And while the wedding seems to be going well at first, Ty is quickly emotional about the whole thing because his dad is there, and his dad seems like genuinely happy for this new couple.
Which is fine. He should be. That's a healthy thing to be.
It is, but it's really throwing Ty's soulmate issue to the forefront. And so he pretends he has a headache and leaves, and his mom and the bio dad go after him. And then they finally, for the love of God, have a sit-down talk with their son about like life and feelings and how relationships can't just be solely based on love. Like, there's got to be more to it. And like, they're still soulmates. They still talk to each other when it rains and like check in, but they're healthier, functioning people apart from each other. Like, they're still very good friends, but they just can't be together as like a loving, relationship couple.
More of this. Like, this is kind of like, I want to discover like how people dealt with this phenomena.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because first it raises a lot of questions about soulmates, like
platonic soulmates.
What platonic soulmates, or like, what is a soulmate if it's not basic compatibility and similar values, which you see a bunch of flashbacks of this couple existing where the mom is very work focused and the dad is very like family time and let's go camping and let's do stuff together, and like complaining to the wife like, you don't spend enough time with the kids and you're not here enough, and like it seems like valid complaints, but they obviously have very different values of what they're doing, and like I think the mom maybe is bringing in more income perhaps, and I think it's just like a whole thing. And like they don't function as a couple because they're constantly fighting about these, like she should be spending more time with the family, and he feels like he's doing all of the things for the family. And so like it doesn't work, but it worked better separately, which just is interesting. So what does that mean for soulmates? That they're better as platonic soulmates?
Well, it depends on the soulmate. This is the thing. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all, which this tries to postulate.
Right, but the concept of soulmates is supposedly like you will grow together and always be a couple, and that's not true for this couple. So how does that work?
Again, if we had a wider view of more than just 3 people with this condition, we might see a greater variety of people and how they approach the concept of soulmates, but we don't get that.
Yeah. So I think this concept is interesting. I just don't think they delve into it quite enough. But I am very glad they finally have this freaking conversation with their son, who obviously had some major issues regarding this. And then he realizes that his mom's not solely to blame. Like, he was completely blaming his mom, but in reality, it was the mom who originally brought up, like, maybe we should separate, and the dad who asked for the divorce. And so, like, he'd been blaming his mom the entire time, and it wasn't. It was a mutual decision.
Sure.
And so, like, it fixes a lot of his problems to have this open discussion with his parents, and why they didn't have it freaking years ago when they divorced is beyond me. They knew their son was struggling, and he's the only one with the same condition.
You're gonna have to move on. I'm sorry.
I'm so mad about it.
I can tell.
So then all the family comes in, they all hug it out. The dad tells him kind of off to the side that he knows about Phat and he should really try to work it out. He'd heard about it.
Should he?
Yeah, he's like, you know what? I may not be working out with your mom in the way that I imagined it would be years ago, but it's like important that I have her.
I know. Phat seems kind of like a volatile person.
Just in this situation, apparently.
Well, we don't know. We barely, we only seen him face hardship once. Like, it wasn't like...
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so... According to our sample size, 100% of the time, there is a rocky patch of relationship. He's going to fly off the handle.
Yeah, crazy. So, good times. Cut to Lomfon at the university, running his message from the heart script past, I don't know who this is. Like, I don't know if it's a class, like an upperclassman, or if it's a TA. Yeah. But the person's name is Ping Pong, and I love that for him.
Oh, come on.
It is. And the TA person immediately realizes that it's a story about him and Thian, because he's like, yeah, no, I'm not blind. I know what's going on between you two. And he wants to hear all the juicy details. And Lomfon kind of gives him the general outline of the situation, not the specific details, but basically this is what's going on. I screwed it up and I really want to apologize and get him back. I realized that I want to be with him. And the TA tells him to be true to his heart and edit his script that way with his heart. I don't know. And, Thian shows up for the tail end of that conversation as the TA is leaving. And they kind of have a little argument, and what's his face? Phat. No. And Lomfon doesn't explain anything, and they part not having talked it out. Always good.
Great choice.
So then there's also this whole side plot, which I have completely skipped over, but I wanted to point out that they've brought back Nara, and
Why?
Because she...
Do we have to talk about that? Is it important in any way?
I'm going to skip through it very quickly. I literally have a line about it. I just wanted to put it out there for anybody who's watched this, who feels like it needs to be said, is that Nara...
It doesn't.
There's a relationship between Nara and one of Pat's girlfriends, friends that are girls, getting together. And I'm not trying to erase the entire lesbian love story in this, but it's so unimportant to the plot. And I don't know why they keep trying to make Nara a character. They didn't even bring her in until 7 episodes in.
Look, if you want to have another love story, fine, but actually do it. Don't just half-ass it.
Yeah, they shoved it in there. And I think it's I'm assuming it's representation and all that, which is great. But I also I don't understand why they're trying to make this a main character that
it feels more like tokenization if they don't do the right work for it.
It's a whole thing. So meanwhile, back in the film class, Lomfon presents his video, which seems to be just... There's a voiceover at the beginning with words on the screen about forgiveness and moving forward and a piece of his heart. And then a million videos, a collage or a montage of Thian from all the footage he's filmed over the course of the TV show. So it's basically a public proposal. It's just him laughing and having a good time at the
creepy
camping. It's clearly a public proposal of
that is a lot.
It's a lot. And his friends are why are you the message from Lomfon's heart? Which I thought was a really funny line.
That is a good line.
And Thian gets upset and leaves the room, which totally fair. I would be very embarrassed as well.
Validly. I mean, some things should be embarrassing.
And Lomfon chases after him. And out in the cart, because they have it out in the courtyard, it's empty. And Tian's all confused, what does it mean? And why are you doing that? And Lomfon admits that he likes him. And he used to like his brother. But the more he got to know Thian, the more he ended up liking him.
You're my second choice.
That's not what he says. He's your first choice. He's giving up his soulmate for him.
Uh-huh.
And now he's all in, and he had to confess to him or he'd regret it for the rest of his life. And that wins over Thian, who jumps him, and they're making out in the courtyard. So the public proposal seemed to work out well for him. Good job,
Yeah,
Lomfon.
Of course it did, because it's a movie or TV show or whatever.
Yeah, the best part, though, is that Lomfon asks him if he wants to continue watching the film that he made, and Tian's no, I'm super embarrassed. And Lomfon's yeah, I'm really embarrassed about it, too, but you should give it another 5 minutes. And I'm there's 5 minutes of that?
That's too many minutes. That's too many minutes by 4.5 minutes.
Is there more to the plot than just Thian smiling at the camera and laughing at the camp?
Is there a plot? There is no plot. It's just 5 minutes of creep shots.
It made me laugh so hard. But yeah, it's super embarrassing. I agree. So Thian calls his brother to tell him the good news and encourages him to go get his man. He's going to regret it if he doesn't. So Tai admits he's scared and afraid of Pat's answer and afraid that he's going to get hurt. And Tian's not good reasons. Stop screwed around. It's better to resolve the issue than to live in your in-between forever,
Yeah.
Pick one or the other. And so he decides to go find Pat after some flashbacks about, their relationship. And he goes to the vet office and he finds out that Pat has left and decided to open his own clinic in Chiang Mai, which is the same place they went before 2 weeks ago. So he's left quite a while ago. And they have no idea where the clinic is. He's just kind of gone incommunicado, but they know he's there. And the person at the vet's office, Pat's friend, tells him that Pat saw him with Lomfon at that cafe and thought he was with him. And
nobody just asks a question.
Right. So Ty's decided to go on an adventure, and he's going to find Pat.
Do we need more adventure in this show?
This is the last little bit of the show. So I really think this is actually a really interesting part in that it's a lot of montage of him just driving around all the cities. But like I said earlier, the filming is really pretty. It's gorgeous scenery.
I mean, as a travel advertisement, it sounds great. Yeah.
So he flies there, he gets a hotel room, and now is war planning with maps in his room. And he's trying to cover what seems to be a pretty large area. There's the main towns, there's lots of little villages and other towns, and I don't know, it's a big area. And he seems to be just going to every vet office.
And just hi, do you love me?
Are you my mommy?
Are you my soulmate?
So montage time, and you get one of those maps where you can see him walking across it, which is fun.
Oh, like in Indiana Jones or something.
Absolutely. So he gets a scooter with a helmet that has one of those little spinners on top, so when the air hits it, it spins. It's so cute.
A propeller beanie kind of thing?
Yeah, but with a helmet.
Perfect.
And he has no luck the first day, and in day 2, he's in a more rural area, doesn't have any luck there. Day 3, his motorcycle runs out of gas, and he's rescued by a couple, one of which who was blind, and we get their story. And flashbacks, for some reason, of their love developing. And this isn't the last episode. The last, half an hour of an episode. I'm
what?
Why are we spending time on this? And I think the point is that love has its challenges, but they persevere, and they're like a happy couple, and they give him some advice on communicating effectively with his partners to resolve problems, which is a legit thing that Ty needs to work on.
Do we need another flashback to do that?
No, it's so weird. And it's pretty long. It's a good chunk. It's a solid 10 minutes, maybe more of this episode is just this couple that you're never going to see again and don't matter.
I am angry at how much time this show wastes.
Next day, he gets some gas and he explores the town a bit. It's a cool town, like I said. Totally want to go there. It sold me. If it was a tourism ad, it won. And luckily, at the end of the day, as he's eating at a food stall, he happens to hear a little girl ask for her pet back. And he looks up and he sees Pat handing off an animal in a pet carrier.
Finally!
In the street, for reasons.
In the street, for reasons that are like a drug deal. Pass me the bag of money, little girl, I'll pass you the cat.
I assume it's in front of the vet office, or maybe she lives there.
I like it better if it's a back alley, and she's like, hey, little girl, you got the goods? He goes yeah, I got the bag of money. You got the animal? I got the animal. Let's do that. Okay, count of 3, we're gonna make the exchange. 1, 2. Oh, you don't got the full meat. She pulls a knife out on him or something yes, this deal's going down a different way.
All of this is happening, and Ty's just watching, huh.
What a weird back alley pet drug deal thing.
And then he's like, oh, wait, that's bad. I should probably help.
Nah. He gets knifed by the girl. Well, I guess he wasn't the one.
So he calls out to Pat. He's like, hey, Pat, that girl's got a knife. Watch out.
Watch out! I can hear her thoughts. I'm her soulmate.
No, the girl leaves. He calls out to Pat, and everything goes into slow motion, of course, as they walk towards each other. It's very dramatic. Ty starts crying and apologizing, and Pat does his usual stoic face, but he's teary as well. He's not a bad actor. He just has an odd, expressionless face where he just lets Ty talk a lot. Ty, I should have timed it. Yeah. It goes on for, it's at least 60 seconds of Ty just talking and Pat just standing there blankly. It's so long. I feel like his brain's flatlined or something. He's so surprised to see Ty. And Ty says he doesn't care if they're soulmates, that the most important thing is how they feel about each other.
There you go.
What he said originally, but Pat wasn't hearing that. But I guess Pat's come to terms with it. He just gives him a huge hug. And finally, the one thing that Pat says is, I love you.
Oh.
A few words are Pat.
Except when he's drunk or angry or there's any sort of issues that you need to work through.
Yeah, crazy. So then they kiss and they make up, and you see flashes of all the other characters living their best lives. As a voiceover tells us that no one has an answer to the soulmate problem.
Clearly.
And this didn't give them any answers, but maybe they get to choose their own destiny. It doesn't choose them. And then post credits, sort of.
Oh.
Lomfon and Thian are discussing where to eat out, and Lomfon runs off to grab his umbrella because they notice it's about to rain.
Do they hear each other? I swear.
No, but suddenly Thian gets a blinding headache and hears someone asking if his soulmate is out there and can hear him. Thian freaks out. The end.
Oh, no! What?
I don't know.
That's
season 2?
So cruel. Is there a season 2? There probably isn't.
Not out yet, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there will be one.
Again, the most interesting part of the show are the things they didn't talk about.
Oh, what a show, Sam. What a show.
I think I made my feelings abundantly clear.
Oh, it's crazy.
I'm just so angry at all all this world building that was put to use and wasn't explored in ways that could have been so much more interesting.
Which is why it's on the podcast.
That's a good point. It's what we do.
We take things with untapped potential.
Not always. Sometimes they do everything they should do and they're still wild.
It's just interesting to choose such a interesting sort of plot and then not run with it.
Right, do something with it.
Or run with it in really interesting ways that you would they didn't take the important things and run with them. They took the less important things and ran with them.
Well, the problem was they were too focused on this is going to sound very robotic, but the emotions, and I don't mean that in Like you could have just done all this kind of drama without the like magic hearing thing. Like, you know,
that's the plot.
Right, but it doesn't like, they don't use the magic hearing thing to explore the nature of like what is the concept of soulmates, and like if you had that option, they do a little bit like with the parents getting that little speech at the very end, but as you said, it is very little and very late.
Yeah, I thought it was the first time I watched this, I thought it was interesting because the first couple episodes, that's kind of heavy on the hearing thing, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting concept, I wonder where they're going with that. And then there's like 4 episodes where it's like not even a part of the plot. Like it doesn't even matter that they can hear each other. And I was like, what is this show doing? And then the back half is like, Lomfon realizes he can hear people. And I'm like, what is going on with this?
Right. So they took a pretty standard romance shenanigan plot and added on top of it this hearing thing that wasn't like, I think 100% necessary. Like, I think you could have done this whole plot without it, and it wouldn't have changed the characters substantially.
Yeah, I think what made it interesting in the beginning is that they could hear each other, but they didn't use that successfully.
That's what I'm getting at.
Many of the episodes, yeah.
Right, like the romance, they focus too much on the generic romance plot and not on their secret sauce of the hearing thing.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting choice if you're going to base your plot around people being able to hear each other when it rains.
Do something with that, make it an integral part.
Yeah, seems interesting.
Don't just make it a convenient plot device to get, a brief love triangle going.
Yeah, that's weird too.
Yeah, like it's all it's used for. The only reason they have it in there is so they can like have an excuse to have the love triangle. I don't think there's any shortage of convoluted ways to get love triangles going in media. Like that is not something that is like, oh, there's no way to have a love triangle make sense in a show without having some crazy invented sci-fi thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they seem to use the love triangle almost exclusively to create discord between Phat and Tai and Lomfon and Thian. Yep. And it's like, that should have been used for so much more. It's interesting that there's 2 people who can hear the same person. Like, that's the concept you should have, like, why would the writers not run with that concept?
Because again, as I said, I think they're focusing too much on the romance part and not on their interesting premise.
Right, but you could easily make that a part of the romance. It's like a struggle now between, like, I just
preaching the choir here.
If I were writing, it'd be a whole different ballgame.
Look, we've all backseated, written a bunch of stuff. I'm sure there are many reasons why it's very hard to write a show like that.
Oh, sure.
And please all your audiences.
Listen, and I like Pluie. I've now seen it like 3 times. I'm just...
No, all I'm saying is I think that when you get too focused on the checking all the romance boxes, like they lost sight of the weirdness of the hearing stuff.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, if you out there want to explain to us how this show should have ended in thruples or more, you can.
Or literally how any of this works. Is it based on
Danielle,
anything?
If you have like a book or something this is based on, we'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Oh, sometimes they're based on comics.
Yeah, so if you have any of those things, please send them to us at bookretorts.com.
You can also tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us at bookretorts.
If you want to fund our research project to create the perfect soulmate detector...
Yeah, I don't. This society doesn't seem to capitalize on the soulmate issue. We're gonna fix that as capitalistic, terrible humans.
Yeah, we're gonna turn it into a business like it should have been from the start. What part of the human experience can capitalism not ruin? Well, we're gonna try to find out. So you can support that endeavor at patreon.com/bookretorts.
Patreon.
Well, Danielle, thank you for sharing that with me. I feel both angry and curious, I guess.
Anytime. I'm here for you with your Asian romantic nonsense. Or non-Asian romantic nonsense.
I gotta say, this is painting me as a proclivities I do not possess, I should say. Your romantic media nonsense, let's put it that way.
I haven't done only romance.
I'm just saying, you're here for my romantic media nonsense.
That's true.
Yes.
It's all sci-fi. Spoiler.
All right, well, until next time, bye.
Take care, everybody.
Didn't they talk about Paris at some point, want to go there, or was that a different show?
I
that
don't
was
know.
the man's voice.
Yeah, the one with the cat.
Yeah. So why La Pluie?
Can't tell you. Don't know. It might have told me in the first half, and now I don't recall.
I mean, I guess it doesn't even be called The Rain either, but like...
Sounds better than The Rain. Oh, interesting. It is a book.
Oh, it is a book. Okay. Well, thank you for letting our listeners determine that for us.
What? We're done.
I'm going to tell everyone you wasted their time by looking it up immediately after the episode ended.
Well, it wasn't on purpose. I was like, maybe it says somewhere on some board somewhere or whatever why it's called La Pluie. And then I clicked on it and it said it was based on a book. And I was like, oh.
Is the book French?
No.
Oh, that doesn't answer the question.